Matt didn't even wait for the cameras to stop rolling before dropping the bomb. He dumped Jasmine. Out of nowhere. And not for space or peace but for another woman. A brand new girlfriend. Already posting cryptic hearts and dinner stories, while Jasmine was still clinging to her unfinished marriage with Gino. It hit fans like a slap. One minute they were watching a messy love triangle, and the next, it became something darker, colder, and far too real to be TV. Hey everyone, I'm Sabrina, and you're watching TLC Drama Live. If you've been following the chaos between Jasmine, Matt, and Gino, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments. Do you think Jasmine ever saw this coming? Because from what the insiders say, no one did. The breakup didn't play out like a normal fight. It was filmed mid-season, during what was supposed to be a reconciliation shoot. Production expected tension, not destruction. Matt walked in calm, quiet, and with a look that said he'd already made peace with walking away. Jasmine was confused, nervous, still wearing the ring she refused to take off even when things got bad. Then he said he'd found someone new. The air went heavy, no raised voice, no drama at first. Just silence, long enough for every crew member to realize this wasn't another staged argument. On screen, you could see Jasmine freeze. Her eyes darted, waiting for him to laugh or explain. Instead, Matt stood there, emotionless. The same man who once said she was his soulmate now spoke like he was reading a script written hours before. Fans online later said it was one of the coldest breakups they'd ever seen on the show. And maybe the most humiliating, because Jasmine had built her whole identity on proving she'd moved on from Gino. That illusion shattered instantly. Her face said everything, a mix of shock, disbelief, and raw panic. It wasn't about losing Matt. It was about realizing she might have lost both men, the cameras, and her image all at once. And as production scrambled to control the scene, something else started unfolding behind those studio lights, something much more disturbing. But the betrayal didn't stop there. Before everything fell apart, Jasmine and Matt looked like a fairy tale come true. On screen, they laughed easily, finished each other's sentences, and played up their chemistry for every confessional. The fans bought it. TLC pushed it. For months, they were the couple everyone thought might actually make it. But off camera, that perfect illusion was already starting to rot. Matt had grown distant. Little things first, he started turning his phone face down during dinners, walking away to take calls, and deleting messages faster than Jasmine could ask who was texting. She brushed it off in the beginning, telling herself he was stressed from filming or avoiding online hate. But you could see her energy changing in every new episode. Her smiles didn't reach her eyes. The flirty banter turned sharp. Every small misunderstanding became a low-key fight. By episode 19, fans on Reddit were already guessing something wasn't right. Some claimed to spot Matt texting off-screen during production days. Others noticed that Jasmine stopped tagging him in her Instagram stories. A few even speculated that she was paranoid, pointing out her history of jealousy from past seasons. But this time, her instincts weren't paranoia. They were a warning sign she didn't want to believe. The closer they got to the reunion filming, the stranger Matt became. He'd stay out late after production wrapped, claiming he needed space. He stopped posting couple photos and started following a handful of suspicious new accounts, women from Miami, mostly private profiles with the same circle of friends. Jasmine noticed, she asked, he laughed it off. And that laugh, the kind of laugh people use when they're hiding something. Do you think trust even survives once cameras get involved? Because in my opinion, it's impossible to separate love from performance when the entire world is watching. For Jasmine, every public smile was another mask she had to keep in place, even while her gut screamed something was off. Then came the moment that changed everything. During a quick break on set, Jasmine picked up Matt's phone to check the time. One notification lit the screen, a message preview. A woman's name she didn't recognize, followed by a heart emoji and the words, "Can't wait to see you tonight." Her face went pale, the room went silent, the illusion was gone forever. When the cameras started rolling again, you could feel the tension before anyone spoke. Jasmine was sitting stiff, eyes locked on Matt's phone like it was proof of every nightmare she'd ever imagined. Production didn't even need to prompt her, she went straight in. Her voice cracked as she asked who the woman was, why the messages said, "tonight," and whether the rumors online were true. Matt didn't deny it, he didn't even flinch. He just sighed, looked down for a second, then said, yes, he'd been seeing someone else. Fans who watched the episode later described that scene as one of the most painful moments in the franchise's history. The way Jasmine's face broke, not with rage but disbelief. Her hands shook while she kept asking if it was a joke, if she was being pranked for content. The silence after each question was brutal. Matt kept his tone calm, even detached, saying he didn't want to hurt her but couldn't fake a relationship anymore. It was strange to watch because he wasn't cruel, yet every word landed like a knife. Some viewers said his calmness felt like control. Others thought it showed how emotionally done he already was. And honestly, it's hard not to see both sides. Maybe he was already gone months before this. Maybe the cheating was a way out he couldn't say aloud. But standing there, you couldn't help but feel that the man who once promised forever had already vanished long before he walked out that day. Jasmine's reaction spiraled fast. She grabbed his arm, begged him to say it wasn't real, then suddenly stopped. The tears came all at once, and she crumbled mid-scene, whispering something about being the fool again. Crew members had to pause filming twice because she couldn't breathe through the crying. No script could have prepared anyone for that rawness. It was grief mixed with humiliation, the kind of pain that makes you forget you're on camera. When Matt finally stood up to leave, he didn't look back. Jasmine stayed frozen, staring at the door long after it shut. That moment went viral within hours. Clips flooded TikTok and X. Fans flooded comment sections demanding updates, begging to know if she went back to Gino after this collapse. And that's exactly where things take a turn, because Gino was about to reappear in her life, right when she needed him most. After Matt walked out, the room stayed silent for a long time. Cameras lowered, crew members looked shaken. Jasmine sat on the same couch where she'd promised to start a new life, now curled up and trembling. Filming had to stop for the day. Insiders later said she refused to leave the set until everyone else cleared out. She kept staring at the empty doorway, whispering things under her breath, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Over the next few days, production slowed everything down. TLC issued a temporary hold on her filming schedule so she could recover. But recovery doesn't come easily when heartbreak becomes content. The footage leaked early, and the internet did what it always does, it divided itself. Some fans flooded her page with sympathy. They called her brave, said no woman deserves public humiliation like that. Others weren't as kind. Trolls accused her of karma, pointing back to how she left Gino. Some even mocked her tears, turning screenshots into memes. The cruelty hit hard. For Jasmine, every notification became another reminder that the worst moment of her life was now everyone's entertainment. Her social media posts shifted overnight. She stopped using filters, she stopped smiling. She shared cryptic captions about regret, silence, and truth. People could sense something was broken. And the worst part, the episode hadn't even aired yet. She was already reliving it through comments, reposts, and fan theories that treated her pain like a guessing game. Behind the scenes, crew members described her as quiet but restless. She'd sit for hours scrolling through old photos, rewatching clips of her and Matt from happier days. She barely spoke unless someone mentioned Gino's name. It was like the mention alone woke her up. She told a producer once, "Gino was never cruel, he never embarrassed me." That line stuck. A week later, she made a choice that would shock the entire crew. Late at night, after one more argument with herself about whether she deserved closure, Jasmine picked up her phone and opened Gino's contact. Her fingers hovered for a long time, then she hit call. The same man she had once left behind was now the only person she trusted enough to reach out to, and that call would change everything that followed. The call didn't happen on camera, but word spread fast that production knew about it. A producer later confirmed that Jasmine reached out to Gino late one night from her apartment in Tampa. The lights were off, she hadn't eaten in a day, and her phone battery was at 5%. Still, she called him. No script, no filter, no camera crew, just a woman hoping for one voice that didn't sound like judgment. At first, he didn't answer. She tried again. This time he picked up. Witnesses say her tone was soft, almost apologetic. She told him she was sorry for everything, for leaving, for chasing someone else, for not appreciating how much stability he'd given her. You could hear the shaking in her voice when she said she missed him. The part that made fans ache came later, when insiders claimed Gino listened quietly the whole time. Not angry, not sarcastic, just quiet. When she finally stopped talking, he waited a moment, then spoke. He said he'd forgiven her a long time ago, but he wasn't the same man anymore. He had no hate, no anger left, but he couldn't go back. In his words, he didn't want to repeat pain that took years to heal. Fans who heard parts of this exchange described it as the most mature moment Gino ever had on or off the show. He didn't slam her, didn't humiliate her. He simply drew a line. To Jasmine, it sounded like a door locking forever. She cried again, but this time it was quieter. The silence after that call lasted longer than the call itself. The next morning, producers found her in her apartment with lights still off, phone still on the floor. It wasn't dramatic. It was heavy, like grief that doesn't have words. For viewers, Gino's refusal looked like cold rejection, but it wasn't. It was self-protection. After years of chaos, he had learned to stop saving someone who didn't want saving. Jasmine, though, saw it differently. She saw a lifetime slipping through her fingers. The moment marked the true collapse of her storyline. The woman who once controlled every headline was now unraveling quietly behind the camera, while TLC executives began asking a quiet question of their own. How far should they keep filming someone in this state? And what happens when heartbreak becomes too real for TV? Filming stopped for almost 2 weeks after the call with Gino. Jasmine wasn't answering texts from producers or castmates. Her apartment blinds stayed closed. Delivery drivers said they'd see her once a day at the door, still in the same hoodie, barely speaking. Production staff kept checking in, making sure she had support, but she refused to film. What once made her feel seen now made her feel exposed. When TLC finally resumed filming, they handled it differently. The crew was smaller, lighting dimmer, every scene planned around comfort, not confrontation. You could see the shift. She wasn't the loud, fiery Jasmine fans knew. She moved slower, spoke less, and didn't fight back when the camera followed her. Even her voice had changed. Low, uncertain, tired, viewers noticed. They filled comment sections with worry, asking if TLC should keep airing scenes that looked too raw to be entertainment. The debate split the audience in half. Some said showing her pain was exploitative. Others argued it was honest television, proof that reality TV still had real emotion left in it. TLC's team seemed to walk a tightrope between empathy and business. They offered her time off, but also knew her storyline was driving massive online traffic. Every leaked clip gained millions of views within hours. And behind every viral post was a woman trying to hold herself together long enough to finish a contract. Insiders said Jasmine's days blurred together. She barely ate, barely slept. She'd stare into space between takes, sometimes breaking down mid-scene without warning. Crew members described it as the hardest shoot they'd ever worked on. They kept checking with mental health coordinators and making sure she had someone nearby after filming. Still, the question lingered: how much heartbreak is too much to air? By the time the mid-season break ended, it was clear TLC was facing a moral crossroad. Fans were hooked, sponsors were watching, and the network couldn't decide where empathy ended and business began. Then, just as things started to calm down, another story began shaking the foundation from the inside. Word leaked that a longtime couple had crossed a line too far. Arguments on set, crew walkouts, anonymous complaints. And within weeks, the chaos brewing behind the cameras was about to explode, centered around one explosive name: Andre. While Jasmine's breakdown played out quietly, another storm was forming behind production doors. Andre was back to filming with Elizabeth, and insiders said the tension had become unbearable. Crew members started leaking details almost daily. He'd arrived late to shoots, argued with producers, and accused staff of manipulating his image. At first, TLC brushed it off. Andre's temper was part of the show's appeal. But this time, it went beyond drama. Multiple crew members reported walking off set mid-filming. He allegedly shouted at a producer, slammed a door, and threatened to quit if they didn't portray him right. Even Elizabeth's family scenes became impossible to film because no one wanted to share space with him. Some insiders described him as paranoid, convinced the network was trying to turn viewers against him. Behind the scenes, executives were meeting almost daily, weighing how to keep control of a situation spiraling faster than anything they'd seen in years. The irony was hard to miss. While Jasmine was falling apart emotionally, Andre was imploding professionally. She'd lost her relationship. He was about to lose his career. Both stories mirrored each other, two different people breaking under the same pressure that reality TV thrives on. Fans tune in for love stories but stay for breakdowns, and TLC knows that better than anyone. Producers who worked both storylines said it felt like watching two collapses on parallel tracks. Jasmine represented heartbreak that couldn't be edited away. Andre represented defiance that couldn't be managed. One was destroyed by love, the other by pride. And in both cases, the cameras caught every second. By the time news of his backstage outburst reached TLC's top brass, executives had already seen warning signs for months. There were emails from crew members refusing to work with him, legal reviews over aggressive behavior, phone calls with network lawyers about liability if something went wrong on set. The final straw came when Andre confronted a senior producer off camera, and the footage had to be cut entirely for safety. It wasn't drama anymore, it was disruption. The same week Jasmine's episode aired, TLC quietly launched an internal review. The network that built its empire on chaos was now forced to ask if it could survive its own stars. And what they decided next would shock the entire cast, because the punishment they gave Andre and Elizabeth changed the franchise forever. The official decision came down on a Friday morning, sealed behind closed doors at TLC headquarters. Andre and Elizabeth were banned for life. No spin-offs, no cameos, no tell-all specials. Their contracts were cancelled effective immediately. Insiders said the vote wasn't close. Too many crew complaints, too many production halts, too many arguments that drained morale and money. The network decided they couldn't risk another season of explosions that weren't safe to film. The aftermath hit hard. Word spread through the cast chat within hours. Some didn't believe it at first, assuming it was a stunt to hype the next season. But this time, it was real. TLC had reached its limit. Behind the scenes, producers admitted it wasn't one incident that ended them. It was a pattern. Every season had become harder to shoot, every argument louder than the last. Some staff described walking on eggshells every day, unsure what would set Andre off next. Elizabeth, insiders say, took the news quietly. She didn't fight, didn't beg. For once, she didn't try to smooth things over. It was as if she'd seen this ending coming for months. She'd grown tired of defending behavior that drained her peace, tired of watching her family break down on camera year after year. Those close to her said she cried for hours, but not out of anger, more out of relief. Relief that the chaos was finally over. Andre reacted differently. Furious calls, long texts to producers, even threats to expose the truth about TLC's editing. He told friends he was betrayed, that the network used him for ratings and then threw him away. His social media exploded with posts hinting at lawsuits and unfair treatment. The irony was that fans were already divided. Some cheered the ban, calling it overdue. Others claimed TLC had turned its back on the very drama that kept viewers watching. Entertainment outlets covered the story nonstop for a week. Every gossip site had headlines calling it the end of an era. But inside the network, a deeper conversation started. Had TLC finally drawn a line to protect its staff, or was this just another storyline disguised as accountability? The network had purged its loudest villain, but the question everyone kept asking was simple: was this justice or strategy? When the news of Andre and Elizabeth's ban broke, Jasmine's heartbreak quietly disappeared from headlines. 1 week earlier, she was the center of fan sympathy, the woman everyone pitied. Now, the internet had moved on. Her pain was replaced by another scandal, another trending name. That silence hit her harder than the breakup. She realized how quickly attention fades when the next outrage appears. Fame had never been comfort, it was a timer counting down to the next story. Friends said she barely spoke about Matt or Gino anymore. She watched the news of the ban with a strange calm, scrolling through headlines about toxic behavior and network accountability. For once, she saw the system clearly. The same platform that gave her visibility had also taken away her privacy. Every moment of joy or breakdown had been dissected, clipped, and monetized. And now, even the villains were disposable. She started reflecting on her own choices. Viewers often saw her as reactive, emotional, unpredictable. But under the surface, Jasmine had always been chasing control, trying to manage how the world saw her while losing control of herself in the process. The show rewarded chaos, and she gave it willingly. In her mind, love and fame demanded the same sacrifice: constant vulnerability for other people's entertainment. In quiet moments, she began writing. Not for social media, not for confessionals, but for herself. Short entries about boundaries, regret, and the difference between being seen and being understood. Some of those notes later leaked, showing a woman trying to understand how she became part of her own downfall. She didn't blame Matt entirely, nor Gino, nor TLC. She blamed the way she let herself become dependent on the spotlight to feel alive. It was strange seeing her find peace while the rest of the franchise burned. She even sent a short message of support to Elizabeth, wishing her strength. Fans called it growth, critics called it performative, but either way, it was the first time Jasmine didn't fight back against public judgment. She was learning that silence could be power too. As the reunion approached, whispers started spreading that producers wanted Jasmine to return for the tell-all. Cameras were already booked. The question wasn't whether she'd show up. It was what she would finally say when she did. The months that followed changed everything. Jasmine started showing up again, not on red carpets or talk shows, but in small posts from the gym, farmers markets, or walking alone near the bay. She looked tired but calmer. Fans noticed she'd stopped reacting to every rumor. She was slowly pulling her life back from the spotlight that once consumed her. The same cameras that watched her fall apart weren't there to film her healing, and maybe that was the point. Meanwhile, Andre went silent. His page wiped clean. No updates, no interviews, no live rants. A few anonymous insiders claimed he'd been warned that any public outburst could trigger legal issues with the network. Elizabeth's page, though, stayed open. She shared simple posts about parenting, quiet weekends, and rebuilding her peace. The absence of chaos became their story. Inside TLC, executives met to rebuild the franchise's image. Advertisers had pulled back after the backlash, and producers started pushing for lighter, healthier storytelling. But fans weren't convinced. They knew controversy was the heartbeat of the show. Without it, the spark fades. Still, the network needed to show it could protect its cast while keeping viewers addicted. They began scouting new couples, fresh faces, new conflicts, stories less toxic but equally watchable. It was the start of a new phase, one where drama would be rebranded as authenticity. For Jasmine, that shift was bittersweet. Her pain had fed the same system, now trying to appear moral. She'd become both the warning and the inspiration. A few months later, she agreed to film again, but under one condition: full control of her narrative. No ambushes, no misleading edits, no staged fights. Producers agreed, knowing her return could pull back the audience that drifted away. When cameras rolled for the reunion, she walked in looking composed. Different energy. No tears, no desperation, just a quiet confidence that made even her critics pause. Behind the curtain, crew members whispered about how far she'd come. Andre's name never came up that night. He was gone, erased from the storyline that once revolved around him. But as filming wrapped, one question hung in the air. TLC had lost two of its most explosive stars. The show had been rebuilt on the ruins of their chaos. So who would the network bring in next to keep that fire alive?